Hey guys, well, apparently a lot of the rumors were true. So there's been a lot of rumors as to what Apple was going to release this year at WWDC, and a good chunk of them turned out true, and it's interesting. So we're gonna go ahead and cover. We're gonna go do a whole recap on everything that happened this year at WWDC. Let's get right into it. All right, so we're gonna start off with iOS because that's the biggest thing, and immediately yes, they changed the way they do the versioning. So, the iOS, macOS, iPadOS, watchOS, and visionOS are now all versioned by the year. So instead of iOS 19, we got iOS 26, and we got macOS 26, and watchOS 26. Everything is versioned by the year now, which I am sure is going to confuse a lot of customers. But alright, you know what? Fine. I'll take it. We'll take it. So they've made a decent amount of changes. So they just released iOS 26 in developer preview, and it has made a lot of changes. So they went ahead and completely redid their design language, and they're now utilizing something they call liquid glass, which is Apple's new fancy schmancy design language that basically the only thing I can really equate this design language to is I don't know. It's kind of like Arrow, if any of you remember that from Windows 7. Yeah, it's kind of like Arrow, but if somebody went ahead and modernized it. As you can see, there's a lot of interesting UI elements. It feels a little bit fluid. It's not necessarily bad. I've heard a lot of people like it. I've heard a lot of people dislike it. I'm kind of indifferent to it. I think it's good. At the very least, it's refreshing to see a design change in iOS. This is a pretty big design change at that too. And macOS also changed along with it as well. So did watchOS, visionOS, etc., etc. And developers can also use this new design language in their applications, and they're also, frankly, expected to. So, alright, that makes sense. New design language. I'm indifferent to it. I know it's not everybody's thing, but I don't necessarily, in my opinion, think it's all that bad. So we have that. There are some Apple Intelligence updates, not many, and not the ones that people were necessarily hoping for, but there are a few updates to Apple Intelligence right now. For example, there's live translation integrated into Messages, FaceTime, and Phone. So basically, you can speak English, and if the other person on the end speaks like Japanese, your phone will automatically translate for you, which is actually really cool. I'll take that. That's actually a cool feature. Same thing with Messages and FaceTime. So that's cool. And there's also a visual intelligence feature. So the idea with this is that you could take a screenshot and highlight like a certain thing and find it with ChatGPT, or use Google or Etsy or other supported apps to find similar images or products or whatever. That's a feature that Android has had. Google has implemented a similar feature into Android for a little while, so this isn't like a new concept, but it's a neat one to have. So we have that. There's some updates to Genmoji and Image Playground. However, I haven't really seen many people seriously using either. If Genmoji and Image Playground are your thing, then you can go ahead and do some new stuff and generate new types of emojis. So if that's your thing, go right ahead. Shortcuts have gotten a lot of updates, and you can also use Apple Intelligence in your shortcuts, which is actually kind of cool. So if you do any shortcuts on macOS or iOS, you can now integrate Apple Intelligence into your custom workflows or whatever. And Apple Intelligence can now automatically identify and summarize order tracking details from emails sent from merchants and delivery carriers, which is a small little thing, but a quality of life nonetheless. And you can also get, if you're an application developer, you can now use some of Apple's on-device models in your own applications. So that's actually pretty cool. The phone app has gotten a completely new update. As you can see, it's changed quite a lot. However, it is an opt-in thing. So you have to say you want the new interface. So it's interesting. They changed the Messages app a little bit. They also allow you to make polls in group chats now. So if you have iMessage group chats, you can now make a poll in them, which is actually kind of neat. You can also go ahead and request, send, and receive Apple Cash in a group chat. So that's also neat. You can also add custom backgrounds to your iMessage chats or group chats. So that's also pretty cool. CarPlay has gotten an update. Obviously, it has the new design. I guess that's to be expected. A couple of quality of life features. Nothing too exciting, but long story short, they updated CarPlay a little bit. They went ahead and updated Apple Music, Maps, and Wallet, so you can do some lyric translations, which is actually kind of a nice feature. So if lyrics are in a different language, it will automatically translate them for you, which is cool. Automix, which is basically some kind of AI DJ, basically, which is kind of neat. I haven't tested this out myself. Maybe it's actually pretty good. I don't know. I think Spotify does a similar thing. So that's kind of neat. Apple Maps will now track the places you've visited, so you can turn this feature on. It'll go ahead and track every place you visited and, give you a list of them, so you can go ahead and find previous places you've visited. That's actually kind of cool. They've changed some things to Apple Wallet, namely with like flights and whatnot. So small quality of life features, but still cool nonetheless. There's a new games app. If any of you have had like older iPhones, you'll probably remember an app called Game Center. Apple eventually cut this off with time, but eventually, I guess now they've brought it back, but they've rebranded it as Apple Games, and you can go ahead and buy games here and do achievements, friends, yada yada. It's their own little gaming thing, which is kind of neat. AirPods have some new updates too, so you can actually do something really cool with AirPods now. So if you have AirPods 4 with active noise cancellation, or AirPods Pro 2, with this new version of iOS, you can actually get what they call studio quality audio recording, which basically means if you have AirPods or AirPods Pro, and you have like the new ones, you can actually get high quality Bluetooth microphone audio. I have a pair of these Sony Bluetooth headphones right here, right? I have a pair of these Bluetooth earbuds. The one thing I've always known about Bluetooth is that anytime you try to use the microphone on your Bluetooth device, it's awful. The issue with Bluetooth devices is 9 times out of 10, they never implement the right codec that allows for high quality audio, at least when you're using the microphone. It always goes down to this super low bandwidth, awful, terrible microphone setup, and it sounds atrocious every time. For reference, I don't have any Bluetooth microphone set up right now. I'm using a I can't really bring it into frame, but I'm using a Blue Yeti microphone, and this is generally what I use 9 times out of 10. But sometimes maybe I want to walk and I need to call somebody, or maybe I need to leave myself a voice memo or whatnot, and I'm wearing one of these. The audio quality is nil. It's really, really bad, and not only that, but it also turns the quality of whatever you're listening to down to an extremely low amount. So this is a nice quality of life feature. I will applaud Apple for this. For as small and as mundane of a feature as it is, I will give credit where credit is absolutely due. Thank you, Tim Cook. Thank you, Tim Cook. This is a good feature. This is actually a good feature, because I don't see many audio vendors implementing something like this. I'll give credit where it's due. This is good. I want to see more things like this. This is good. Good. So, alright, that's a new feature. You can go ahead and make kid accounts or child accounts now, so there's some new parental control features in iOS. There's some updates to Safari, namely tracker protection, but that's something every web browser has nowadays. Some accessibility features, for example, utilizing certain types of braille displays is now supported with iPhones, and some other quality of life features for those who need accessibility features. And yeah, the developer beta for iOS is out now, so you can go ahead and give it a try if you want. But obviously that isn't the only thing that was released by Apple now, is it? There is a lot more they've released, actually. There is a lot more. So we're going to go ahead and cover macOS as well, because macOS also has some pretty big updates. I'll skip watchOS and visionOS because those typically don't have that many updates, and well, even then they're just small quality of life features usually. But the real meat and potatoes lies in iOS and macOS. iPadOS kinda, but the features that iOS gets are typically the features that iPadOS will get. So we're gonna go ahead and cover macOS. So macOS 26, or macOS Tahoe, I think is what you would call it, is, well, it has the same UI design changes as iOS. So we have that. You can go ahead, it's all glass, it's got all this fancy stuff. The windows are more rounded now, so I guess we get that. We get more rounded windows. So, okay, cool little feature there. I mean, I won't hate on it. It doesn't look bad. Not to me anyways. So, more rounded windows. One thing I don't think they talk about in here, but I have noticed, because I'm currently trying it out right now, is they also changed the mouse cursor. So that's a little different. It's like a small change, but they changed it. So there's new updates to continuity, which is basically that thing that allows you to share information between your MacBook and your iPhone. So if you have an iPhone and a Mac, you can use continuity. And basically they updated the phone app on the Mac, so you can make phone calls from your MacBook, and things look a little better. And you can also go ahead and relay your phone calls from your iPhone to your Mac, so you can chuck it across over. So there's some fun little features now. Live activities from a user's nearby iPhone will also now appear on the MacBook. So, alright, some quality of life features. Spotlight has changed. Spotlight has changed a lot, actually. So it has a new indexing system, which is nice. It's also way faster, I've noticed. Even though this is the first developer beta, I have never seen Spotlight so snappy. So, you know what? Credit where credit is due. They got it right. They got it on the money with this one. This is, like, really good. And you can also do shortcuts. You can do different kinds of actions with Spotlight now. So, like, you can send an email directly over Spotlight search, which is actually really neat. And honestly, you know what? I kind of like this. And not only that, but you can also search for shortcuts in the application you're currently focused on. So if you're in Photoshop or something, and you need to find like a specific shortcut item, but you don't want to have to go through the menu bar and find like, oh, is it in this thing or is it in this thing? No, you can go into Spotlight search, type in the function you're looking for, and press enter. That's it. You don't have to fiddle through like the menu bar ever again. If you have something that you know what it's called, but you don't have to sift through the little top menu bar, you can go into Spotlight and just find it, which is really, really neat. So, again, some small quality of life features, some Apple Intelligence stuff, but nothing too awesome. There's the Games app now, which is the same thing on iOS. It's basically ye old Game Center, but revived and given a fresh coat of paint. So we have that. Safari has gotten a couple of updates. It's apparently a little bit faster, but then again, Safari's always been pretty fast. The web engine that Apple makes is really, really good. The Messages app has gotten the same changes as iOS. The Journal app is now coming to macOS, which is an app that we've had on iOS for a little while. Photos app has gotten some updates with the new design language, small updates on FaceTime. You can go ahead and import and export Apple Notes into Markdown files, which I know is useful for some people, not everybody, but the small amount of people. There's a small amount of people out there that I know would take great usage out of this. So you know what? All right, credit where it's due. That's a very useful feature. So you can go ahead and there's some new accessibility features such as magnifier on Mac, which enables users with low vision to zoom in on their surroundings using continuity camera on an iPhone or attached USB cameras. Accessibility reader, a new system-wide reading mode designed with accessibility in mind. Braille capability and a thing called vehicle motion cues, which helps reduce motion sickness when in a moving vehicle. So if you're looking at your desktop and you don't want to be as motion sick in your car, you can turn this on, apparently. I don't know how effective it is. I've heard some things, though, that it is actually kind of effective. The Passwords app has changed a little bit, and that is about it for iOS and macOS in the WWDC this year. Now, these are some very interesting changes. I think the most interesting change by far has to be the change of how would you describe this? The change of going from like just arbitrary version numbers to straight to the year. So instead of iOS 19, we got iOS 26. I get why they're doing this. I completely get it. It's an understandable change. It's not even a weird concept. Microsoft did it before. Windows 95 was called Windows 95 for a reason. It was because it was released in 1995. I get why they did it. But I will say, that has got to be confusing for some customers. I mean, come on. They're not really used to that idea. I get why they did it, but in my opinion, what they should have done is they should have called it 2025 instead of 25. Because then your customers are kind of like, wait, what? Because they're on iOS 18 and now suddenly they're going to be on iOS 26. It should have been called iOS 2026. Sorry, I said 2025. I meant 2026. It should have been called iOS 2026 instead of 26. Because, well, it's such a large leap. Again, I understand why they did it. It makes sense. You want to have the same version across all of your platforms so everything is more cohesive. I get it. It makes sense. But I feel like it could have been executed in a much better way. Now, here's my thoughts. Here's my thoughts on this whole thing. I've been using iOS 26 and macOS 26 for not even a full day now, so take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. But so far, at least on the beta, keep in mind it's in beta right now. It's not in like official release, and these things don't tend to officially release until like the fall. So take what I say with a little bit of a grain of salt here, because it's not production ready yet. But macOS has been pretty good so far. I haven't noticed too many problems. Where I have noticed problems, however, and I will point this out because in my mind it is pertinent enough to point out, is iOS. iOS has been really buggy this beta, and this is probably one of the more buggy developer betas I've ever used. It has had a significant chunk of problems. I haven't had it as bad as nearly as some other people have had, but I've had some weird bugs. Now, I totally expect Apple to iron some of them out. Again, it's a developer beta, and they made some huge breaking changes, like changing the entire user interface design. So I'm not going to act like, oh god, Zooks, this is going to be the worst iOS ever. No. It's a beta. It's going to have problems. I'm just saying this is like probably one of the most buggy betas I've ever used. So if you want to avoid bugs, I would stay away from the developer beta for right now. Maybe wait until the next developer beta release comes out and then give it a try. But so far, it's a bit buggy. macOS, though, I haven't had any issues with. It's been completely fine so far. I would very much so steer clear of updating to the iPadOS developer beta though, because I've seen some videos floating around on Twitter, and it seems very, very, very buggy. So I would steer clear of the iPadOS beta for right now. The macOS beta is completely fine. If you're on an iPhone and you want to do the iPhone beta, then you can do it, but just keep in mind it will be very excruciatingly slow and laggy initially. I tried restarting my phone, and that actually did help a little bit for me. So keep that in mind if you decide to do that and go on the developer beta for iOS 26. But just keep in mind things are going to be a little bit buggy. If you want to get the developer beta, it's not hard at all. You can go into your settings app, go to system update, and there should be a little option for beta updates, and you can enroll yourself in the iOS 26 developer beta. It's not hard at all. It's very easy. You can do this on macOS, iPadOS, iOS, watchOS, the whole 9 yards, you can name it. visionOS if you're one of those people who spent a gazillion dollars on an Apple Vision Pro. And it's very easy to enroll. It's not that hard. What I will say is if you encounter any bugs, especially because this is such a big, major major change in all of the Apple ecosystems, if you do enroll and you find bugs, use the feedback app to report them. Apple is really good at dealing with bugs. So if you notice any, use the feedback app. Some people are also using the feedback app to give their opinions on user interface design changes, because some people like some of the changes, some people don't. What we're seeing in this beta is not what we're going to see in the final release, as I've found with Apple. 9 times out of 10, what you see in the developer beta is not going to be exactly the same as what you see in the final release. So, just keep that in mind. Things are going to change around. This is probably not going to be the final way it looks. So if you have any grievances with the way it looks, feel free to use the feedback app. It's there for a reason. But overall, not a bad release. I'm not going to call this the worst iOS ever. It was lacking behind. It was really lagging behind in the AI space. There was a lot of people who were disappointed that Apple Intelligence hasn't gotten all the changes that customers have wanted yet. So there's some people who are kind of disappointed in that, and I don't necessarily blame them. So if you were hoping for big, major changes to Apple Intelligence, this wasn't the update for you. I'm sorry. However, there's a lot of other changes that, well, in my opinion, make up for it, namely with the whole design refresh. So, all things considered, in my opinion, I wouldn't call this bad at all. That is about it for today's video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe. Take care, you guys, and remember to stay safe out there.